It's very interesting that the Tony Blair Institute's answer to so many problems is let's get digital ID. I think there are numerous issues. We've seen, firstly, that concerns that the public have about two-tier policing and monitoring or suspending areas for protest. The concerns around digital ID of tracking, surveillance and monitoring. We've seen debanking because of political views that has become very public. We've also seen throughout lockdowns there are spy units on citizen journalists and doctors and the public. One of them still exists, the so-called counter-disinformation unit. There was also the rapid response unit. All of that had to be flushed out with the lockdown files and the Twitter files. It wasn't readily represented to us. We know the Bank of International Settlements CEO has said that we want to track every single transaction using central bank digital currency underpinned by ID. The idea that now we're going to be presented, and the thing about polling which is so interesting is if you ask certain questions you'll get certain responses, but the idea that the way to stop small boats and indeed other illegal migration is through digital ID, or that we're going to stop fraud through digital ID and we should have unelected civil servants as we have at the moment going into banks around pension, the Department of Work and Pensions without a warrant. The idea in every area of our lives we should be more surveilled, tracked, monitored and have suppression of free speech, which is ultimately what's been going on even without digital ID. That will be consolidated further. Right. Creates a kind of concern around a social credit system like we've seen in China, and people may scoff at that, but we've seen all sorts of suggestions about carbon footprints, people not recycling, going on too many holidays, a whole array of thoughts and ideas. And even if people like this government, many don't, but if you did, the thing is, once you start setting precedents about tracking and surveying people and controlling them in this fashion, then that's open for anyone to abuse it even further. Remember, we were locked down for quite some time. And, you know, these measures are always presented now in these terms to make us better and safer, and it's all about choice. But ultimately, it's very technocratic and it's about an imposition. That's why we're saying we should have a digital Bill of Rights.
Alexander, what's your response to that?
I would say that a digital ID actually puts citizens in more control. It is more secure. It makes for a more engaged and more informed citizenry. Because one of the ways that you would do this is with a digital ID, you would be able to log on, you would be able to see what is the information that different parts of the public sector have about you. Is it correct? Is it not correct? If it is not correct, then you're able to correct it. If anyone is accessing this data for no good reason, you would be able to see this too. And one of the things that we actually see is in countries that have digital IDs and that have implemented them successfully, there is no knock-on effects on the types of freedoms that Alan is describing. So whether it's Estonia, Austria, Sweden, Denmark, these are all countries that have very functional digital ID systems that rank in the top countries in the world in the democracy index. And there has been, if anything, a positive trajectory for many of them since they've introduced digital IDs.
OK. Alan, your response to that?
Yeah, I think the thing is that if you look at the idea of we need encouragement to be engaged as citizens, it's another technocratic question. The public are engaged with one another using all sorts of mechanisms, some of which is digital, and they're able to do it. When we're talking about the state having the ability to survey and snoop, and whether it's in low traffic neighbourhoods and the obsession with fining people and giving out tickets, or whether it's about what people are saying on social media, as we've seen, the Home Office stopped elected representatives, cabinet minister apparently, from even asking questions, then the concerns about the technocratic control and the use of this technology, which will be centralised, and also the breaches, of course, we saw in Portugal and elsewhere, the power cuts, impact, and data security. We've seen that even our security services in Afghanistan could not be kept safe, and there were data breaches there. This cavalier attitude and approach that it's all just about engaging citizenry and, we'll offset any issues that come along. They avoid the central crux of the matter. The public, in Britain, we've got precedents, and in England, historically, the idea that we should be able to have privacy and not be monitored and surveilled continuously.
But don't we give away so much of our data now voluntarily anyway?
Well, they are choices that we do, and giving them to commercial entities, albeit the fact that some big tech has very big relationships with the state, that's a different thing, and that's about a choice, and people should be conscious about that. But now the attempt to galvanise this around a digital ID in a range of areas, talking about fraud, talking about migrants. It's the same playbook from the Tony Blair Institute that has enormous influence globally, And we're very concerned that someone like Keir Starmer, who prefers Davos to Westminster and the cut and thrust of things in his own words, wants and the idea that we avoid the thrust of debates like this, which are very important, but like the public being able to say things that perhaps some people don't like, perhaps the people in power don't like. And we've seen all sorts of measures to shut people down and suffocate that. And the obsession with digital ID as a kind of technocrat's dream to kind of monitor, regulate, stifle is a problem. So we're saying we need a digital bill of rights to ring-fence protections, liberties and privacy in Britain, and that we don't have forced digital ID.